I'm really excited for this session because, when Chetan, one of our back-end members, introduced me to the subjects, I was like a little perplexed. Finding your wow factor, isn't that somewhat of a prerequisite for an entrepreneur? Like giving your best day. I mean, this is like getting back to the basics, back to square one. You don't need your wow factor. As an entrepreneur, we all understand. I mean, that is something which is taken for granted. That is a prerequisite before you step yourself onto entrepreneurship. But then I dwelled on some numbers, and that's when I understood the importance of this subject, especially when it comes to women entrepreneurship. As we are talking today, in the last 2 years, the contribution of women in the workforce has gone down by 60%. I mean, leadership is one step ahead. I'm talking about contribution in the workforce, ladies and gentlemen. Contribution in the workforce. Women are not allowed to work. I mean, we have to live with that reality. So, entrepreneurship for women, and I have met a lot of women entrepreneurs in my career. And one thing which is common, and I know it's a very cliche question to ask this to women in today's day and age, but I would still like to start because numbers reflect a different direction. So I'll start with the Prerna Puri first. Prerna, has entrepreneurship been different and difficult for you as compared to your male peers? I mean, what has been your experience? Has entrepreneurship in this country been different and difficult for you?
First of all, hello everyone. It's lovely to be here. And hi, Abhinav. Entrepreneurship. Okay, let's get to that. My journey is a bit different. When I started my brand, it was just last year during the lockdown, and it arose from a very simple reason. I wanted to give something pure to my child. It arose from that. And from there, I created a brand and I decided to retail it in the market. Now, here's where things turn a little difficult. So it was what I felt I've created a really good revolutionary concept of making ice creams. It's absolutely pure. It's unlike the way it's made in the industry. But when I went out and I thought I have this fabulous product, and when I went out in the market and I went to stores and asked them to place it on their shelves for me, because that's the way I thought I would retail, the response I got was not so great. The response I got was, we don't know you, you're a new brand, we have not heard of you. So when people come asking for you, we shall keep you. So that was something I hadn't expected. And that's something I really had to work upon. And I just kept on working, kept on trying again and again, cold calling, lots of it. Finally, I got a breakthrough in Modern Bazaar. And from there was no looking back. But that initial hearing a no from so many stores telling me things like, we don't understand the name of your product, you're very new, we don't know, be there in the market for 2 years and then come to us. That was slightly tough as an entrepreneur as I would begin. But since then, it's been quite a great journey because the response has been fabulous to the ice creams because it's all natural and pure. The response has been great. Yeah.
Okay. Chinu, let me come to you. I mean, how has been your journey? Because I was reading about you and how you built a Fonte Fashions. Like the journey, like, was there any difference when you interacted with people, your clients, your customers? Were there any repercussions of you being a female in this industry?
Definitely, yes. Because with women, there's a bigger concern. So what happens is, first step is you need to convince the world that you're not a bored housewife. You're not just doing it because you want to pass some time. That's the first thing which you need to convince people. Trust me, no one wants to buy this. Okay, they don't look at you like in a way that one more bored housewife. Now she's going to come and now she's going to go back and then she'll say I can't do this and she'll give 100 reasons. But what I've seen is that is a starting problem, and I've seen it everywhere. I've worked with corporates, I've worked with big companies, small. Everywhere is the same mindset. But then slowly it changes when you start delivering. But the starting issue is there as a woman, and bigger thing is one is if you're a bored housewife, that's one segment. Other is she's already 23, 24. Oh my God, she'll get married and she'll go off. So no point. That it's not just about entrepreneurship. Even for a job, when you go for an interview, that's the same attitude. The first thing is that okay, will you be able to work after marriage?
Sure.
A little onus on us to change it and show the world that, we are not just bored housewives.
Okay. Now, let me, since Chinu brought this up, let me ask this question to the baker in the panel. Baker is generally considered to be a time pass occupation. So, Aditi, was this one tag which was given to you that you are a bored housewife and you're into this profession because you're bored? And of course, I'll come to fintech and other panels as well.
So I actually love how Chinu just called a spade, and it's really funny. But so for me, the journey was a bit different, where I did not get any of these tags initially. But things that would always make me very upset is, yes, we started a business. This is a business that me and my co-founder run. My co-founder also happens to be my husband. And yes, I'm the expert at baking, but that doesn't mean I don't have any business acumen to that matter.
Sure.
And there are times when we're having a meeting with, let's say, probably investors or some senior people in the industry, and I find it very upsetting, demeaning when a finance question comes and all head tilts towards him. And I'm like, okay, listen, can I not know my bread and my numbers? Is that not possible? And I do know that. Instead, I think at times I know it a bit better because I have this habit of dwelling deep into every topic that I pick up. And it's amazing how that happens. And it's not, these are not the uneducated ones. These are the senior corporate members of big banks, big companies who've been running a business for 30 years. And when they do this head tilt, in my head,
finance kaisa hoga? Let's talk numbers, and the query goes to your husband.
Yeah, and I feel like, listen, I think I can give my input, but at that point, I'm also judging them that this is not the person I'm going to take help from. Definitely not.
Sure. Now, since you...
It's not just the investors. My own banker does that too. Hello, you're my banker and I'm CEO of the company. So your own team will take that.
Sure. Now, since both of you brought numbers, I'll go to the fintech. Akshata, finance is primarily considered to be a male-dominated area, male-dominated domain. Did you also face such discriminations?
Hi Abhinav, thank you so much for having me here. And not only finance, Abhinav, everything. Trust me, these girls have just hit the right spot. So, despite the improvement in the social parameters, India's growth does not translate to economic inclusion or development towards women. So like what Aditi said, so even if I'm, there have been times, so I've been in the business for almost seven years now, and fintech thing we started last year. So even if you're a woman, you're sitting in a meeting room, so people are discussing things, they'll not even look at you half of the time, because you're a woman sitting. So you have to make them, you have to make your presence, you have to literally yell, hi, I'm here. Hey, I'm the one, you can talk to me also. So the social stigma, the personal social challenges are a big hurdle for women. Yeah, I mean, no matter. So, like you said, the women labor force has gone really down. I mean, we are, down than Pakistan and Bangladesh, for God's sake.
That's correct.
And it's declining year on year. So imagine the kind of, if everybody, all the women force get into it, the kind of GDP that we will create. But no, we are still, sorry, you want to go ahead?
No, please complete.
No, we are still, imbibed with the idea that your main career or main thing is you're the primary caregiver of the house. You have to take care of the house, and any professional thing that you do outside is considered secondary. So these are the pointers that we have been grown up with.
Nurtured with.
Yeah, nurtured with. And so imagine how difficult it is. And for girls, for the panelists here, we are still privileged. I mean, semi-urban and rural areas, so these are not even talked about.
That's correct. And who better than a journalist in the panel? Srinandi, namaskar. How has been your experience? Media in particular has been a little more liberal when it's come to accommodating women leaders and women as co-workers. What has been your experience? You're on mute, Srinandi.
Sorry. I was so absolutely engrossed listening to everybody, forgot to unmute myself. So first of all, thanks for having me here. So, my story is very different from possibly everyone who's here at the panel. So I have been like a square peg in a round hole all through in the world of wildlife and conservation. which has very much been a man's bastion. It has been somewhere which has been related to charity, which has been related to doing good for the society. But business has been kind of a taboo word to be used with air, water, and nature, which is all free resources available to us, which we are exploiting. And my background is that I am a master's in engineering. I was with Siemens, so I was in 2 projects. So I had done the full exploitation bit before I decided to move to sustainability.
Okay.
And the only difference, I think, my problem was that more as an outsider to the place, rather than having the problem of being a woman as such, but a sari-clad woman in the national parks, who supposedly visits national parks, who supposedly spends hours in gypsies, was not really an idea that gelled well with people. So
it doesn't fit in the defined definition of women.
It doesn't fit anywhere. So my whole story was about breaking every myth and trying to change things and trying to make something which was sustainable. So I am into environmental education. I work with over 50,000 children in the country, and they actively take part in learning about the environment. I also run a magazine. But what I would like to tell you is that I don't feel that there was too much of a discrimination because I was a woman, as it was because I was an outsider. So it was more of a closed community where I had to come in. The work was physically challenging, which naturally was part of the job that I chose to do. But otherwise, as you said, journalism is more accepting to women as such. So I don't think that at a personal level, I have faced much of a discrimination, and I have been lucky to that extent.
Touche. Ritu, how has been your experience as an entrepreneur in India? I mean, have you faced discrimination only because of your gender?
I don't think so. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's been lovely listening to all the other ladies, all of us from various different fields, of course. My field being that I am running my foundation, which is Mukul Madhav Foundation. We are looking at many verticals within this foundation. And if you're asking me a question whether I have faced discrimination, I don't think that I have faced discrimination, especially with the work that I am doing. I think it's a lot of care, compassion towards the work that we're doing towards rural as well as urban cities, working with children, working with women. Yes, at times I feel that when we want to break through and go and meet the right people in the authorities, they sort of look at you and they try and see whether you're going to be serious about what you're doing, or is it just something because of your background, you come from a family that has everything. Why would you be coming on your hands and knees wanting to help in these areas? I think that's the thought process that is there, that are you serious? Are you going to be a long-term association with the work that you're doing? So I think convincing them on that part is more difficult. But other than that, I think it's like a breakthrough. As soon as they, you crack that open, the doors are open, and we've been able to sort of inch our way for the last 22 years into rural as well as into urban spaces in the way that we're supporting medical skilling, women, farming, a lot that's going on within our foundation at this present moment with the help and support of many people. But truthfully, not so difficult. It's been a very happy space, very happy to work where we are. So I haven't faced those problems.
Sure. Ritu, and my sincere apologies to everybody, the sixth person whom I reach on the panel, because we have so many people. So there will be a considerable amount of time till I reach the last person. So please pardon me for that from the very beginning. Now, after hearing all of you ladies, I think of renaming this panel as Are You Serious? Because that is one of the common things which is coming from each one of you, that you're not taken seriously. And of course, I'll come to Aditi and start this round of questioning again. Aditi, like Chinu highlighted and like all the other panelists highlighted, and I was talking to some senior executive a couple of months ago, and these are all closed door conversations. People won't come out and speak these things in public, but that's how they talk when behind closed doors. It's like the women are good in only those sectors which are traditionally women oriented, like bakery for that matter, or maybe running a foundation. Okay. And this is the kind of perception I'm telling you, the kind of grapevine talks which are here. Now, do you think that is it our ecosystem which needs to be blamed for that? That women in general are not able to find that wow factor, we call it, or not able to express their seriousness? Or is it because traditionally a lot of women do take up businesses because they are actually bored? I mean, if you find out the number of housewives who are entering into businesses, the number is huge, and they do it just for time pass. The moment they are pregnant or the moment they have other responsibilities, they just dump the business. So is it wrong for the society to take them in that perception, or where does the change need to happen? Arti, you're on mute, please.
Sorry, there's so many multiple points I want to say to this. First of all, I feel whenever a woman is starting a career, whether this may be a job, whether this may be entrepreneurship, she needs to be a little bit reality oriented, that the challenges that she's going to face, some of them are going to be unfair. Let's just accept that reality. And it's important to have a chat with your husband, with your family, with your in-laws, with whoever is in your surrounding, and set the boundaries. Saying this is what I intend to do. I am not born to cook and clean and manage a house. I can earn enough money to get people to do that. So this is what my ambition in life is. And at least set that expectation right from day one. Hopefully she gets a positive response. I've been extremely lucky to be able to get that. But the ones who don't, I feel you still need to set the boundary and pave your way forward.
Okay.
Second, I am actually in very big favor for housewives starting businesses. I think it's extremely challenging to say, listen, I had a dream, but I got married, I had kids, I wanted to concentrate on that. Now maybe the kids are off to school or something's happened and I feel I'm ready to start. Go ahead, start. I wouldn't judge them ever, because there's several men out there who start a business who don't do well, or who do well and decide to sell it out and go on to the next thing. And I wonder, why is that not considered a bad commitment? When the going got tough, you decided to sell a business. When the going got tough, you got a lakh more as a CTC somewhere else, you decided to change your job. Upheavals the entire family. So if judgments have to be passed, there are extreme judgments on men I can pass. So to me, it needs to be a woman's decision what she needs to do. If she wants to stay at home and be a mother, well, totally fine. If you want to go to work, you go to work. But to pass a judgment based on this decision is not right, because when a man chooses to do that, we're not passing these judgments, are we? When a man says, I don't want a very challenging job and this is where I'm happy and I'm doing for my wife, you're the best husband ever. And when a man says that, wife, stay back at home and I'm going to go and earn billions, you're still the best husband ever, because now you're going to get me that money. So there's no rules for him.
Sure.
But for women, that tends to happen. And so I think there's a lot of mindset change. Second, I think women just need to be a bit stronger and say, listen, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And yes, there's a price I will pay. I'm willing to pay that and pave my way forward.
Sure. Now, Chenu, Aditi has raised some questions which date back to the 18th century. The judgments when they were formed pre-industrialization era, when men were considered to be the primary breadwinners of the family. Now, the questions and the pointers which she's raising, and this is open to all the panelists, but I'll come to Chenu first. Where do you think, and I know I'm not the first person to ask these questions, but I'm determined to be the last one. What changes needs to be made? I mean, where do we need to change as a society, and is it only a mindset problem?
Yeah, so I think there are two things which has to parallelly change. One is as women. So I always say this, any women who decide, if she decides to be at home, well enough, brilliant, that's the toughest job. Trust me, it's more difficult than sometimes running an organization. But if she decides that, fair enough. But if she decides to go out and work, that woman needs to build a mechanism around her family with the whole setup, which puts her work to the equal or a higher pedestal than the husband.
Okay.
So if you're able to do that, so I'll just give you a small example. So I have a 9-year-old. Last when I was talking to her and I told her, Anand, Mama is busy for next 6 months. She said, what? I said, yeah. I'm not saying I'm not giving her time, but yes, I'm not available for her fancy dress. I'm not available for all the things that other mothers are able to. Now, that's the price I pay. And am I regretting it? No. Am I complaining about it? No. So these are the mechanisms, and your family has to be aligned to it. Like you have to tell them, this is how it's going to be. But it's the women who have to decide. Now the problem is women don't, we are nurtured that way. Which is a beautiful thing to do. But some way there has to be two sides of the coin. So you have to be like that strong woman, that strong woman who puts the foot down saying, this is what I'm going to do. But yes, maybe twice a week take care of the house. I don't mean by taking a leave. I just mean like, just be extra nice and just balance it like that. That's what I do.
Again, it's an open-ended discussion. Akshata, I'll come to you. We always, whenever such questions are raised to us, not only as entrepreneurs, not only as women or men, or even as a society, everybody goes back and blames the upbringing and the way we have been brought up as a society. Do you agree with that?
So, Abhinav, I think when we're talking about mindset, the mindset needs to change. But how we change it? So now we see a lot of Bollywood films. So our role models are Bollywood guys. So we never celebrate entrepreneurship. So we have to start, as a society as a whole, we have to start celebrating entrepreneurship, especially women entrepreneurship.
Correct.
It's okay to fail. So when we are growing up, so we are told ki akele mat jana, bhai ke saath jao. Go with your father, go with your husband, go with your son, do this, do that. So we are always given a second position. So now is the time that people should start celebrating women entrepreneurship and how they do it. Government has to take measures in this. There has to be central policies, like how we did, polio campaign when we wanted to eradicate polio. So there was this huge campaign where Mr. Bachchan would come and he would, persistently say, "Karao, polio, karao, polio, karao." So this is the time where we should say that working women is okay. Let her go out. Let her meet stranger for your, business activities. Let her explore the business opportunities. Do not ask her. Just let her be.
Let her be. Prerna, like Akshata highlighted, and so have the other panelists. Chinu and Aditi summed it very well. In this scenario, how difficult it is to find your wow factor? What motivates you? Is it difficult, like you also earlier highlighted, that when you went and convinced people that I'm selling an ice cream brand, are you serious about it? I don't know you. So what motivates you? Also its motivation comes naturally to a lot of entrepreneurs, and at the same time it's difficult in entrepreneurship to keep yourself emotionally and physically motivated all the time. But being a woman in the business, it's like a double-edged sword. How do you manage to keep yourself more motivated, like in this scenario? What keeps your mojo uptick?
Honestly, I think it's a very women thing to do. Every time a woman is pushed, she's going to push you back. Okay. So anytime that a woman is faced with a lot of opposition, I think women do like to push back as well. And that's what worked in my case. Every time I hear a no, I would want to push harder. And throughout, even in my family setup, though my family has been very, very supportive, and it's because of them that I was able to convert my home venture into a brand. But even if by chance they won't, what women need to really do is make up their mind, like Chino said. You need to make up your mind and decide what you want for yourself. All right. And you then just need to say, this is what I'm doing and that's what I'm going to do, and work for it, no matter the opposition that comes towards you, because things settle in time. But you need to persevere. You need to be very motivated. And that's what motivates me as well, basically.
Ritu.
Hi. Well, I think Akshita said something very important, is that there has to be a sort of an upsurge in trying to get people to understand where women stand and how we do what we do. A lot has been happening. In fact, in the spectrum that I'm working, I see a lot happening where they are opening doors. For example, farmers. Women farmers are getting a lot more subsidies. They are being encouraged. They are being pushed into what they're doing. So I think a lot of talk is happening and implementation is happening. And it's important for us to realize that at the end of the day, like Prerna just said, women, you push them, they'll push you back. So determination and the way that you move forward, you need to be focused. And I think having the right relationships with not only your family, but with the teams that you have, and with the, the outlook that you have with the spectrums that you're going to work in. It is all about alignment. It's all about being focused, determined, compassionate. And I think more than anything, I think once a woman has made up her mind and she's going to do it, they stick to what they're doing. And it's not that difficult. A lot of changes are happening around me. I've been working, like I said, for more than 22 years, and things have changed. There is room for improvement. Men definitely. Now, for example, if you look at the rules and regulations that have changed about women being on board, on every board in companies, you have to have a woman on board. I think this was a great big step. There was a lot of learning where women used to sit back and say, oh, we don't have an opportunity. But when the opportunity came, they didn't want to be learning, training. They didn't want to learn as to what are the basics of being a board member. So a lot of companies like KPMG, Ernst Young, they're doing all these programs where women are being prepared for the board. And so I think a lot of changes are happening. It's all about opening our eyes and looking for those opportunities. It's there for us and we must grab it. We must make sure that we're not asking constantly to be equal to men. We are equal. We just want to make sure that we reinforce that, and that's important.
Sure, I have a different point of view, but anyways, let's get Sheen Andy's opinion first, and let's.
Abhinav, I just come to what you started this conversation saying that you've had closed door conversations where people have said that women are not serious or things like that. So sometimes I feel that this bias is so deep rooted that people who exercise the bias don't even consciously know that this is something that has come into them from their childhood. It's not that they have consciously gathered it in their journey. So I would just like to say that when there's a young girl who's born into the family, right from her choice of academic subjects the way she is allowed to participate in the family's finances. I don't know if you all watch Young Sheldon. I watch that show. So where they say that Sheldon, who's this genius, he does all the taxes for his father. But his sister Missy is all about looking pretty and her hair. So somewhere, this is something that we have grown up to believe that women are about being beautiful and pretty while the guys will do the finance. Why don't you have the young girls take active decisions about the finances in the house? Why don't you give her assets? So what happens? I feel a housewife runs a lot of transactions. She runs businesses within her own space. She manages money, even if it's a paltry amount. She works on collaborations. She firefights challenges. She does everything which, as people like us who have handled startups had done at some point. If she is able to exercise these parallels and scale them up in a business environment as a part of her grooming, I think that would make many more women feel comfortable in the business space. But the truth is that we try to shelter them. We try to, just as a mother takes her to the kitchen, once in a while to say, at least, ye to seekho banane ka. I mean, why don't we do it for her? Why does the father call her up and tell her that come sit here and see my tax returns? You have learned enough of maths. Why don't you see what does my balance sheet look like? I mean, that is not done even in family-owned businesses in most cases. So I think a family has a big part to play. Women have a big part to play. And along with everything that my co-panelists have said, which are very, very important and valuable, this would be my small input to the whole process.
Sure. Now, I remember I was listening to Indra Nooyi, and when she was, and the subject was quite similar, that women as entrepreneurs, women as CEOs, women as leaders. She said that I came home, and of course, I was appointed the chairperson of PepsiCo. I came and told that to my mother that I'm the chairman of PepsiCo. The first thing she said to me, ki jao doodh lekar ke aao. So that is something ingrained in a society, and all of us rightly said. But I'll come to Akshita first, because she was the one who planted this thought in the entire on all the panelists' mind. When it comes to changes, Akshita, and like Ritu also mentioned, things are changing. Things have been changing over the past few years. But if you do an X-ray of all the discussions which have happened across the world, the same lines would have been uttered 10 years ago as well. Things are changing. women are coming out of their shell, women are receiving equal participation. My question to you is, and again, this is open to all the panelists from here on, is giving reservation to women in the board seat a solution? Is taking exposure to the bottom of the pyramid and telling women about their rights, is that the solution? And we are talking about the country where more than 70% of women do not have access to sanitary pads. We are talking about such a country. In such a country, where do you think the solution starts?
Yeah. So, Abhinav, the issue, the problem is that the policies, the reforms that has been happening are not reaching the right set of women also. I mean, we are sitting in Delhi, we are sitting in Bombay, we are sitting in metros. For us, the material is still available. So I know my rights, but majority of women, they don't know. So reservation is just a hand-holding that is being done. And I strongly believe such reform should happen. I believe that government should give some tax rebate to the investors or the VCs who are putting in money in women-led ventures, you know.
Okay.
So there is a push, because right now also if I go for funding, people will listen to my pitch deck. But I'm telling you, I'm guaranteeing you, 99% people will not take me seriously. Unless I have my husband coming along with me and like, oh, these are the numbers, you know, and we are serious about it. So you know what I'm saying? So these giving a board seat is just a step. This hand-holding has to be done because there are deep-seated cultural, dogmas which we have to fight. What Ma'am Shri Nandi said, it's very beautifully put. This is what exactly I mean. You know, you have to handhold women. If you don't do it now, it'll be too late. I mean, we're already, I think it's a diminishing minority that we're just, slipping the rank every year. I mean, there's hardly anybody in labor force now. There's hardly anybody. So, yeah.
Sure. Ritu?
I don't know, Akshita, but I just feel that you're saying that there's a discrepancy in the information reaching. So there are policies, but they're not reaching. I agree upon that. I truly believe that is somewhere where we need more loudspeakers, more people who can take information, for example, from Delhi down to Ratnagiri in the west coast of Maharashtra, because women, whether they're educated, uneducated, whether men educated, uneducated, the information, communication is the main problem that we are facing. It's not that it's not there, like you rightfully said, it's all there. How do you amplify that? How can it be taken more seriously? It can be done if we have, for example, our central government with the state government trying to link that up and then take it into the small panchayats, taking it into places where hamlets are there. People are only going to believe what's going to happen at their level. They have their own local heroes that need to be advocating what is happening. It's so important to realize that you and I walking into a village may look like oddballs and foreigners. We need to be having local people advocating what is happening. So what's being said at central government, into state government, flowing down into those channels is so much more important for us to realize that will be where we break through, and we do know that the information will disseminate properly at that point.
You're saying reaching the last mile operator, that is essentially what you're saying in communication.
Absolutely. If I may give an example, if I may take a minute, is that I work with 900 cerebral palsy children through my foundation. Now, these numbers have not only been discovered by me, but these are numbers that were hidden from me. Okay. So when I started going into all these details and found out that these are the problems now in disability of cerebral palsy, there are 3 different ways of looking at it, whether it is neurological, physical, etc. So when we're looking at all these problems, we wanted to know why these children do not have any insurance. Why isn't there an insurance policy? So when I went from A to B, pillar to post, trying to see that I bring in these parents who are anyway suffering, they're from a different strata of the society, they need much more help not only with their children, but being educated about their rights. They were not being given those rights. So I was standing there fighting for their rights. Finally, I discovered that somewhere 11 years ago, there has been a policy to make sure there is insurance to such children.
Okay.
So why was this not given by the civil surgeon or the district health officer to those children who were on this list? It's all about disseminating information, withheld for 11 years until a person like me walks in and finds out.
Well, Ritu, that is not exclusive to this area of dissemination of information. It is generic problem in the country. I mean, it's infrastructure problem.
I just took that as an example, which has been, something that came to me, and I thought this would be, it's like it was a Pandora's box open for these families. There was a huge amount that they could reap through and help the medical status of their children. So this was just an example that came right to my mind.
Sure. Chinu, what is the proactive and pragmatic, I would mention this, pragmatic solution you have for this problem, if we call this problem?
Well, there is no pragmatic solution for the problem. But as you said, that what should be the changes? I think we as women should change, and we can. So I'll tell you, I personally believe that women are the best multitaskers. You see them at home. They are awesome. They can take care of like 10 people, and morning, evening, different need, different liking, all of that. They can just manage all of it. They can also manage finances at home. So they can do all of that. With this belief, I have about 75% of my workforce consciously women. At every level, I have designers, I have people from NIFT, I have packers, at every level we try to appoint women, and we at the lower level we train them. We just don't hire women who knows the task, because see, this housewife, they don't know what they want to do, and a lot of them in my office are small bread earners. In fact, there are few for whom we train them and we tell them that we'll give you insurance, for your family, because their husband might be a driver at some house. He's not insured. His family is not insured. So we train this women. So what I'm trying to put here is that we, sitting here, can make a lot of changes. At least it will start. And
Okay.
it will go beyond if all of us consciously just start doing it.
But okay, fine, point taken. But Aditi, do you agree with the fact that what Akshita said, that hand holding is needed at this stage, or we are beyond that?
No,
Yes.
I think a lot of hand-holding is definitely needed. Now, what is this hand-holding being defined as are different things to different people. Like I Am Bangalore does this wonderful program where they take women entrepreneurs and help them raise funds, help them get mentorship. This is something they do in collaboration with, I think, Goldman Sachs. And it's a privately run program, brilliant one. So I think there are lots of people in the private sector. I have very little hope from the government. So anything when it comes to them, I say, let's just close the door. But I think in the private sector, there's lots of things like this one can do. And like how Chinu said, at the end of the day, all this discussion is well and good, but I am only under control of what is under my roof. So that is what I do. And I'm extremely biased towards women employees at my place of work. When it comes to mentorship, when it comes to giving them an opportunity, I would rather give a woman, even if she's a little bit behind her male counterpart, for her to come forefront. It's pure bias. And there are lots of my male employees who come and tell me, ma'am, that's not right. I said, I agree, but there have been decades of a bias against man. So let there be a little bias against women. What's the harm?
Okay. Prerna?
Yes. So I have a quick few things to add here. I'll give you a real life example. So since I started working, I've had a lot of women call me up and send me emails, and basically to tell me that how they've read my story, they're very inspired, and they want to do something just the way I've done what I've done in my journey. So what I came across all these women when I spoke to them, and I made a point that I spoke to all of them, is there is a very strong want to do something. Okay, but there is so much confusion. There is no guidance. They don't know where to go and how to go about things. They're clueless basically. And last finances. Finances is a very, very big thing. We don't talk about it. Every entrepreneurship needs finances. You know, just collateral, lower interest rate loans are not enough for a woman. The government needs to start getting in more things like collateral free loans. You know, you have to spend in infrastructure or machinery, and there should be an incubation period of 2 to 3 years before you start paying. I think that would really help women. So like Ritu said, this should be taken up at a state level. Every state should have a program where they help women with their capital, with their machinery infrastructure, with guidance, mentorship, you know, technical support and stuff, and in coordination with the central government, where so that this actually reaches somewhere. We should probably have a special ministry for women entrepreneurship, just for women entrepreneurship, to streamline things, because there is so much confusion out there. These women don't know how to go out and how to start. They just want to do something. So we need to get things to be more streamlined.
Sure. Srinandi.
Yeah, I think I'll just have a quick word on it. I think it was very beautifully shared by all the fellow panelists. What I feel is that every generation has a need. So where we are poised today, some handholding is required. But I completely agree with you. Permanent reservation is not a solution to the problem we are talking of. We have to go that extra mile. We have to think of, why I feel today the reservation is required is because today we need role models. And unless we have enough people, enough representation of women who are actually entrepreneurs and have done, life-changing work, like so many of my panelists here, all the women you have been interviewing throughout the day, I think we'll need some time to reach there. After which, a woman who's, one sector of women I very much empathize with are women on a sabbatical. Women who have done very well in their careers and are forced to take a sabbatical. They do not know how to come back, but there's a fire in their belly where they want to prove themselves. They are looking for an opportunity, where I think entrepreneurship is a great way to start back. So I think in that kind of a case, if there are more opportunities for them by way of reservations, by way of better regulations at the government level, I think it's a big high to help out this cause in the country.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, this will be the last part of our conversation, and I would just start with Prerna. Prerna, I was talking to one women CEO about when we were doing this conversation about a month ago on Women's Day. She said that what's casual for our generation was a luxury for the previous one. Like a woman sitting out there, going in a coffee shop, or maybe wearing a skirt. What is casual for the woman today was a luxury for the previous generation. And Srinandi likely highlighted, things will take time, there will be evolution, and the next generation will be in a more comfortable position than this generation today is talking about. So let me start with you. I don't know whether you have a daughter, but what advice would you give to your daughter, or maybe somebody from the next generation who wants to become an entrepreneur? I'm talking about the female kid.
I don't have a daughter, I have a son, but I feel in today's world, you need to educate your son more than a daughter.
Okay.
You need to tell them more about what women are and how to respect them. It becomes the onus is on parents of sons, not so much daughters. So that's one thing. Another thing is, yes, the world we live in is way more open than the world we have come from. There's years of patriarchy and mindset and conditioning that we are still evolving from. We're a long way from getting there actually, but we're evolving. Right? And what I honestly feel is that, what I would tell the future generation is to, first of all, women and men are equal. It goes back to the basics. We're all equal. It's not that a woman entrepreneur is something special. A woman entrepreneur is same as a man entrepreneur. And she can, in fact, probably perform better because, like someone said, she's very good at multitasking. She already handles her house so well. Why can't she handle work? Okay, those are basics, right? So all I would like to say is we need to change our mindset. Society needs to change their mindset. Let women come out. Let women get their own bearings, own work, own mindset, and do what they want to do. And they are no less than men. That's all.
Sure. Aditi?
So to me, I have two sons. I don't have a daughter, but if I had a daughter, the only advice I would give to her, I grew up in a family of three brothers and me, and I was never made to feel that I'm a girl. It was just everything's equal. Like Sri Nandi said, I was made to sit in board meetings as a little kid to see what my dad is up to. I was made to go on factory visits. Instead, I was the first one in the house who said, I'm going to put up my own factory. So I put up a plant before my brothers did. And so to me, if I had to give an advice to a young girl, is saying, forget what your gender is. You do what you feel like. You are not answerable to anyone because of your gender. And it should be your choice, whatever that choice that may be.
Sure. Chinu?
I think one very strong advice I want to give the youngsters and to my daughter, I actually teach her this, is don't give up. Because today, we as parents have started telling our kids, oh, you don't like it? It's okay, beta, don't do it. Oh, you don't like that? Oh, it's okay, beta. So now this generation is come up suddenly with, oh, it's okay.
Entitled. They feel entitled.
And then they come to an organization where the boss says, how the hell can't you do this? And they quit. They quit on that day. And I have seen this. I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners. They all have the same thing to say. This is one thing which I am teaching my daughter, that you can't give up in a minute. If you have taken up something, you have to do it and continue. It could be entrepreneurship, or it could be just anything in life. Just don't stop in like 1 week or 2 weeks or just 15 days and say, oh, mama, I'm not bored with it. So that's very strong advice I would like to give.
Akshita?
So I very strongly stand for this one statement. It's okay to fail and be curious. So this is what I don't have a daughter as of now, so as and when. So I would give this advice that, it's okay to fail. If you fail, that's how you learn. You have to start celebrating failures. Embrace it. And be curious, ask shamelessly, stay foolish, ask people, how is this happening? Why is this happening? Question. So this will be, I think, these are my 2 cents to my daughter.
Sure. Sri Nandi?
So, I have 2 daughters. I don't have a son. So in my case, they are just, they have been grown up as individuals. So they will follow whatever is their calling. And I also think whether they will get to be entrepreneurs or they are going to take up something in life will be largely dependent on the ecosystems they will find themselves in, their peers, and the way things are dictated there. But I do believe that, I love that quote by Warren Buffett where he says that I'm so successful because I'm competing with only half the population. So I do hope that all the women out there set up their businesses and really do well for themselves so that we put in more competition for all the men out there. So that will be my only closing words. Thank you.
I like that.
Well, I have 2 daughters, 21 and 28 years old. Both have been brought up with, I wouldn't say they've been brought up. I think they've evolved themselves looking at how the family values are, our heritage, our culture. They've imbibed that and they're living in today's world. And I think they have a best of both worlds because both my husband and I believe that both our daughters have innate qualities and we want them to nurture those qualities. Having said that, we do believe in family values, culture, which, in all our Indian culture, values, I think are one of the most important things. It's not been thrusted upon them. It's been out there. They've picked up on whatever they've picked up. Both of them are working extremely well. Younger one has just launched her work, her new sustainable clothing line. My older one is working with my husband and working with my foundation. So I think the doors have been left open to them. It's not about a daughter or a son. It's about making sure that they come up as good human beings for the next generation to sort of embrace themselves and see that we have a better future and a better environment around us. So I really appreciate what Prerna said, that she's she's making sure that her son knows how to deal with life, and it's not about training him about anything else, but valuing women around him. There's so many nice things being said over here on this platform, and all such valuable points that one must sort of learn from. But truly, I think it's, in today's day and age, keep the doors open, let girls be girls, and let them thrive on what they have in front of them. There's no sort of barriers at all.
Sure. Now, and as Virat Kohli once said, that consistent progress is boring. Now, I would like to highlight one fact here. When I was Googling whenever I Google about any successful women entrepreneur in this country, and if I type her name, automatic search में उसके आगे आता है husband, father, or some legacy which she's been attached to. Some people might call this discussion as cliche, but the progress will be made, I think, and I suppose, and with the permission of all my panelists, the progress will be made when we move on from discussions about ripped jeans, such futile searches, to cliche and niche conversations like these. I think then we will be talking about actual mojo and not the circumstances which are motivating the mojo, which we have been doing for the last 1 hour. Thank you, ladies. There are no gentlemen. Thank you, ladies, for this excellent conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhinav.
Thank you.